Are you struggling with feeling stuck in your life journey? Does it seem as if the challenges or conflicts that you keep experiencing are on repeat? Healing through feeling could be your new way through to a more satisfying life. Now, here is the host of the Feel to Heal with Sharyn Nichols show, licensed marriage and family therapist and life guide, Sharyn Nichols.
Welcome, everybody. I am Sharyn Nichols, and you are listening to Feel to Heal with Sharyn Nichols on the Inspired Choices Network. And before I get into today's topic, which is having the hard conversations, I just wanted to say a little bit more about myself. I am Sharyn Nichols. I am a marriage and family therapist, and I reside in California, and I help people who are experiencing unfulfilling family, love, and business relationships achieve success and satisfaction through human design and therapy. So I have a Facebook group called Feel to Heal, and this group was created to have an interactive and ongoing conversation about working through all the feelings that come up and the healing that you can have once you, being a part of the group, when you have the guidance, support, and the tools that you need. So please join me in my Facebook group, which is Feel to Heal with Sharyn, which it's just Feel to Heal. And then you can also find me on Instagram, Feel to Heal with Sharyn, for the little nuggets and to keep you inspired too. So join the group. I'm going to have exciting content and little nuggets and obviously there'll be little snippets from my shows. And you can also always contact me at SharynNichols@feeltoheal.com. And I would love to hear from you. I would love to hear questions. I would love to hear comments. And then, of course, if you would like to have a consultation with me, I'm certainly open to that as well. So today's topic, how to have a hard conversation. First, what is a hard conversation? A hard conversation is any communication that you need to make that you are avoiding and putting off. Avoiding bringing up a sensitive issue, being uncomfortable with setting boundaries. I know that that's a really big word. Or worrying about how the other person will react is only more of an excuse to not communicate. So having the hard conversation is the best way for you to actually get what you want and what you need, which is to feel heard and to feel loved, because that's ultimately the end all be all, is what we all want. We all want to feel heard and loved. So you may be fearful that bringing up a conversation will bring up bad feelings or a conflict. So because these kinds of conversations can create such discomfort, it's only natural that you would want to avoid them altogether. So the problem with avoidance is that if you don't resolve what is going on, it just keeps festering and festering, and then it can only get worse. And then it makes it even harder to have the conversation. So allow the time and the space for you to speak what you need to speak and share what you need to share, so you can let it go and move on. Examples of some hard conversations. Telling a friend that they need therapy. Telling a friend that you're concerned about their relationship. Telling a loved one that you don't agree with their choices that they are making. And you're concerned and that you're worried for them because their choices are either affecting you or not. Although you want to be as supportive as possible, because you know ultimately that what they want for themselves is to have the ease and grace that we all want to move through with life. So also, another example of having a hard conversation would be telling a friend that you see something that's going on with their child that they just can't see or are just not seeing. You know, we all have blinders, And it's really helpful if we can allow ourselves to be open. So there's two parts to having the hard conversation. One is the person who initiates it, which is the non-avoider. And then the person who perhaps is the one who would be in resistance, which I will call the avoider. I mean, I'm not necessarily in love with those words, although I think that's just the best description for the two parts of the conversation. I would like to think that everyone is open to having a conversation about anything at all times. And of course, we know that's just not true. So the goal of the hard conversation is to be able to communicate your thoughts and feelings appropriately so you can feel heard and understood. And the way to do that is with communication. Communication is key because it's the basic foundation of what we all want and what we all need. And so having the hard conversations will allow you to have that love for yourself, because I'm assuming that after you've had the hard conversations with anyone, with any loved one, with any friend, with a coworker, or even a boss, or even a subordinate, because it's about all communication in all relationships, because we are constantly in relationship with others and most importantly ourselves. So it is about you feeling your feelings and communicating them appropriately so you can ultimately get what it is that you want. And that is not also being selfish. That's about sharing and being supportive and feeling heard, understood, validated, and loved. It's one of our basic needs that we need to have met. So the best way to start a hard conversation is planning. And first and foremost, it's about reaching out to the person that you need to have the conversation with and asking them when it would be a good time to talk, and let them know that, you can let them know what it's about if you're clear. And because that's also helpful, because their mind is going to go to all those different places of making assumptions and worrying. And we would so love to be able to control someone else's reactions. And unfortunately, it's about you staying in your own lane. And if you just take care of yourself, then things will flow. And so the best way to start, as legendary coach John Wooden, UCLA basketball coach, said, failing to prepare is preparing to fail. So at the end of this conversation before the show ends, I'm going to be leading us all in a guided meditation to open up the throat, to make communication easier for you, and perhaps the hard conversations that you will need to have this week. So, planning. Why is it so hard to say, I'd like to talk, or I need to talk, or we really need to talk? Why is that so scary? We're so afraid that we're not going to be heard, that we're not going to be understood. And again, it's so easy to just avoid and allow things to just fester and build. And then there's always that explosion. So it's about riding your wave of feelings and emotions and then coming into that calm place. So I know I've mentioned before, you have your thoughts and you have your feelings, and those really don't change. And so it's about riding that wave. And when the moment that the wave comes into the shore, there's that moment of just complete silence. I mean, it's half of a second before the water recedes back into the ocean, is that still calm place. And from there, clarity can happen. And so it's from that moment that you want to build upon to have to be able to say, I need to talk, or we need to talk. And so riding your wave will give you that clarity. And then the other person perhaps will be open to receiving, because you're not all and coming at them with that grasping energy of, I need something from you. In order for me to feel better about me, I need something from you. It's about shifting the conversation to, I have a communication that I need to make so I can feel heard and understood. And in return, I am open to hearing what you need to say, so you can feel open, so you can be open, and so you can feel heard and understood. So it's about finding a mutually agreed upon time and place for the conversation. And there needs to be enough space for both of you to feel comfortable. And you should also, of course, I know some of this sounds obvious, although I'm going to state it anyway, is you should both be either sitting or standing, or preferably sitting, because that's more comfortable, but you should be at eye level. So no, there is no imbalance in power, or the perception of the power, because you're equal, because that's what we all are. We are all equal in communication. No one's feelings are more important than the other. We're all equal. So you also don't want to collect or hold on to feelings of frustration and anger, resentment for days and weeks, because then they just all build up and then you just dump. Again, this is another point as to why it's so important to have the hard conversations before they fester and can get bigger and then become out of sort of control. So now that you have the time and place set, we can start really preparing. And like I mentioned, at the end of the show, I'm going to do a meditation, because it's very, very helpful, I feel, for me. I say a little prayer, or I do a meditation. And you can also, depending on your belief system, you can say a prayer with the person that you are going to be having the conversation with, and sort of set the tone for both of you to be open to hearing each other. And it's very important to allow the space and the breath to hear each other, because otherwise there really is no point. So in the beginning, the person's going to have their reaction to, oh no, they want to have a conversation. Oh no, what is it about? What did I do? Just breathe. So if someone comes to you and says, we need to talk, take a breath. Allow and know that they are going to do their best in communicating with you what it is that they need to say, and that you will also be given the opportunity to say what you need to say. It's again about being on the equal playing field, about being level. Again, you are a unique human being, just like they are a unique human being. Neither one of you is special, because if one of you is special, then the other one has to be less than special. So you are unique, and you are completely 100% entitled to your thoughts and your feelings, and expressing them appropriately is always allowed. That's again how we can best take care of ourselves, by expressing ourselves appropriately and in the right time. And so when you're on that wave, it's about allowing that moment and not communicating at the top of the wave, because that's when it may not be so appropriate, because you need to work through your thoughts and your feelings in order to be able to communicate them so that they can be heard. And we're now going to go into our first break of the show. And I am Sharyn Nichols, and you are listening to Feel to Heal. And the topic today is having the hard conversations. And when we come back, I'm going to talk more about how to have the hard conversation. See you soon.
At different times on our life journey, we can feel stuck and struggle with seeing our way through. What if the answer to the struggle is just to go deeper than the surface? By tuning in to Feel to Heal with Sharyn Nichols show, with licensed marriage and family therapist and life guide Sharyn Nichols, you'll receive insight and guidance on exploring your feelings in order to heal yourself. Are you ready to create a more satisfying, peaceful, and successful life? Listen for the Feel to Heal with Sharyn Nichols show every Monday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 5 p.m. Central, 4 p.m. Mountain, and 3 p.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
Are you a subject matter expert? Are you here to share your expertise with an audience waiting to hear from you in only the way you can deliver? Are you ready to have your voice amplified across the airwaves? Inspired Choices Network has a global radio platform streaming to millions of people across the world. Professionally produced and supported by an accomplished team every step of the way, you can broadcast from anywhere in the world, knowing your voice matters, and we ensure it is delivered with ease and efficiency. Eager to hear your message, the world awaits. Contact us today to become an Inspired Choices Network radio host. Email become a host at inspiredchoicesnetwork.com.
This is Feel to Heal with Sharyn Nichols show, with licensed marriage and family therapist and life guide Sharyn Nichols. To participate in the program, join our live studio audience in our chat room at inspiredchoicesnetwork.com. You can also ask questions or comments by email by sending to Sharyn Nichols at feeltoheal.com. Now, back to the program.
Welcome back, everybody. For those of you who are just tuning in, I'm Sharyn Nichols, and this is Feel to Heal. And our topic today is how to have the hard conversations. And it's really important to keep in mind your goal of having the hard conversation is so that you will feel heard and have your needs met. So, in starting the hard conversation, take a breath. Always start with the breath because that allows you to compose yourself. I mean, the breath is incredible. Two of the oldest healing modalities on the planet are breath and sound. So that's why the meditation that I'm going to be giving in the end has to do with both breath and sound, because the sound also opens up your throat because you make the sound from your throat. You want to speak directly to the other person. You want to speak as calmly and in a matter-of-fact tone as possible. So this will help you hear what the other person is saying and then also allow them to hear what you have to say. You want to avoid finger pointing and blaming. Literally, it gets you nowhere. As soon as you start pointing your finger and you start blaming, people will shut down because you don't like it when people point their finger at you and tell you that you are just wrong. So it's about creating the win-win situation. So you want to avoid the name calling and the yelling and the screaming and the cursing and the put downs. And of course, you also do not want to say any threats about physical or emotional abuse or violence in any way, shape, or form, because again, the other person is just going to shut down. And ultimately, then you will not meet your goal of the hard conversation, which is to feel heard and understood, and then ultimately love for yourself. So in describing your concerns and how you are feeling, you want to avoid the words always, never, everything, nothing. They are extreme and usually not true. So as part of the communication process, they are really usually very unhelpful and will only take down. So how should you react to someone when they get really angry? Take a breath and calm yourself, and even, you can put your hand on them if it's appropriate, because touch can maybe calm them. If you're calm, touching them could maybe calm them. Obviously, if it's a coworker, maybe not. Don't want to go there. That's not what this is about. I'm referring to a loved one, and letting them know that you hear them, and that you hear that they're angry, and you acknowledge their feelings, and don't tell them how they should feel. Acknowledge how they are feeling, and ask them if they can have that feeling in the moment and then put it aside, so they can now hear you. And because you're so open to hearing them and what they have to say, because you want to move past this anger that they are feeling for themselves, and then also perhaps with the situation. Because a lot of the time, actually, I'm going to say most of the time, the thing is not the thing. The thing that you're actually wanting to have the conversation about is really, there's something usually underlying it, which is, I'm not feeling heard or understood, or my feelings were hurt. And so if it, it could be that, I'm trying to come up with an example of the thing is not the thing. And of course, they've all completely fallen out of my head. And I'm going to come back to that. You do not want to interrupt. You want to allow the person to speak, and then you also want to ask them to allow you to speak. And it's really important, if you are the person who is, actually, I guess both people in the communication, you don't want to be thinking about what your next thing that you're going to say is. You want to just allow the person to speak so you can speak, and then there be that moment of, I hear what you say, or ask, if there is something you want to ask for clarity, so you're not keep talking over each other. You always have control over your action and your reaction. And that's where taking a breath and allowing, being in the moment to truly hear what the other person is saying. So if the thing is not the thing, you could be saying, it really hurts. It hurts my feelings when I walk in the house and you don't come and say hello to me. So yes, your feelings are hurt, although you're missing out on, probably, if your love language is touch and embrace, then you'd be missing out. You're missing out on that. So what you're really asking for is, come give me a hug and say hello, and acknowledge that I've been out all day and I'm now home. So the thing is not really about that feeling, where it is. I mean, it's about peeling away the layers. We always are. We're such incredible human beings that we are just always peeling away layers. There's always going to be more. It is that onion that Shrek talked about in the movie. We are all onions with multiple layers and layers and layers. So if you're always thinking about what you're going to say in response, then you're actually not hearing what the other person is saying. Again, you can make sure that you understand what the other person has said before you respond. So ask for clarification. Could you please repeat that? I'm not sure what you mean. Can you please help me better to understand what you're saying? And can you clarify what you just said? Because I heard this. Is this what you meant? It allows you to create the win-win situation. You may even want to tell the person what you respect about them at the beginning of the conversation, that you respect and that you admire, or that you like how they do what they do, rather than it be just a complete tear down from their perspective, because that's maybe all that they are going to hear is, oh, I'm not doing this. This I can't get right. I'm all wrong. It's, it's about having the hard conversations. And I just came up with a really great example for me. I realized that I call this the dishes story. I had a boyfriend at the time, and he was so graciously doing the dishes after dinner, and he was loading the dishwasher wrong. And I had to walk away because I was having such an emotional reaction to him loading the dishes wrong. And so I stepped away and I breathed and realized that it was my own feelings of things needed to be my way, the right way. And so the thing not being the thing, it then came up that there were other things that weren't right in the relationship for me, because my needs weren't being met. So it was not about the dishes. It was about me not getting what it is that I needed in the way that I needed to receive it. So then it was about having the hard conversation and explaining to him what I needed and how he could actually give it to me. So that's also part of the hard conversation, is giving the person the script that you need for yourself in order to be able to receive and feel what it is that you are looking to, what you really ultimately want for yourself. So that's about creating the win-win, is about giving them the script and helping, because we ultimately want to give our loved ones and even our coworkers, and of course we want to please our bosses. We want to give them what it is that they want, although we're not mind readers. And so also that means that there is no assumptions. Please don't make assumptions. You may know somebody for a really long time, although people change continually. So it's not about needing to be right. You want to approach the conversation with openness, with an interest in problem solving rather than being right. So it's not a competition, because your thoughts are your thoughts and your feelings, and their thoughts and their feelings are their thoughts and their feelings. And as soon as you need to be right, you let go of the win-win situation. It's about please don't create the lose-lose, because then everyone walks away not feeling heard, and then ultimately not getting what they want and what they need, which is ultimately feeling heard and loved. So you want to keep to the topic. I know how easy it is for us as humans to go off topic, because as soon as we start talking, just like I'm doing now, multiple thoughts are going to be happening. And it's like, oh, wow, that's a great point. I really want to make that. And then, so you don't want to forget it. So you can blurt, and then you can also completely get off the topic. So allow yourself to reel yourself back in and stay in the conversation. And then you can save those issues for another time. And have a pad and pen next to you, write some things down. It's okay. You can also share with the person that you are just writing this down for a later time, because you realize that this may be something else that you want to look at and explore for yourself, to be open to having another conversation about, because that's not what's going on right now. This is just what was triggered and brought up, because like I said, we are multi-layered beings. So after the break, we're going to continue to talk about the hard conversations and staying on topic. I look forward to here. I look forward to seeing you and talking to you when we come back from break. And you're listening to the Feel to Heal show with Sharyn Nichols on the Inspired Choices Network.
At different times on our life journey, we can feel stuck and struggle with seeing our way through. What if the answer to the struggle is just to go deeper than the surface? By tuning in to Feel to Heal with Sharyn Nichols show, with licensed marriage and family therapist and life guide Sharyn Nichols, you'll receive insight and guidance on exploring your feelings in order to heal yourself. Are you ready to create a more satisfying, peaceful, and successful life? Listen for the Feel to Heal with Sharyn Nichols show every Monday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 5 p.m. Central, 4 p.m. Mountain, and 3 p.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
How wonderful would it be to carry your favorite Inspired Choices Network host with you throughout your day? Well, now you can. Inspired Choices Network now has its very own mobile app. Our free app offers live streaming shows, along with thousands of podcasts and TV episodes. Our shows cover a wide variety of topics. Whether you're waking up with us, carrying us through the day, and taking us to bed with you, we're always here for you to enjoy. We're easy to find. Just search for Inspired Choices Network in the Apple App Store or Google Play Store.
This is Feel to Heal with Sharyn Nichols show, with licensed marriage and family therapist and life guide Sharyn Nichols. To participate in the program, join our live studio audience in our chat room at InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. You can also ask questions or comments by email by sending to Sharyn Nichols at feeltoheal.com. Now, back to the program.
Welcome back. Before the break, we were discussing how to have the hard conversations. And again, the goal is to not be right. The goal is to actually be heard and understood. So we want to create the win-win. So an important thing is to not walk away and leave the conversation without the other person's agreement. So allow for the possibility of taking a time out. There can be some sort of a safe word that you can use with each other, so you know that you're not being abandoned and that there's going to be an agreed upon time where you're going to come back. Because as I mentioned before, you may be triggered about another topic or another issue that was brought up by either yourself or the other person that you're having a conversation with. And you may need to now ride your wave so you can then come back to where you started, to what the original conversation was about. That's why I said have the pen and paper next to you so you can write it down. And so you can then say, you know what, I just need to take a moment to compose myself, because ultimately you don't want to raise your level of emotion to the point where the other person completely shuts off because you are so high up here with your emotion. So creating a safe word, I love that. The other day in a conversation that I was having, I said, you know what, let's use the word, and my client filled in the blank. Let's say popcorn. I'm like, you know what? That is such a great word because it is so innocuous and it just makes you feel good. Who doesn't love popcorn? And so you want to pick a word that can diffuse the energy for in the moment. So another thing, take responsibility for how you are feeling rather than blaming the other person. No one can make you feel any way. You are choosing to feel the way you are feeling based on something that they said, they did. And it's not about placing blame. It's about just taking responsibility for how you feel. It's okay that you feel the way that you feel. They didn't do it to you. So you can be specific. And obviously, I know you've all heard this, so I'm going to repeat it because it's something that I know that I need to repeat to myself all the time. Use I statements. I feel. Be clear and specific about what they did that contributed to your reaction, rather than saying, you make me so mad, and you want to focusing on their behavior. It's truly about you focusing on your behavior and where you are and where you are coming from, because ultimately it is about you. It's not about pointing the finger, because when you point the finger, you have 3 pointing back at you. So it's always going to be about you. And in order for you to get what you need to create the space to communicate appropriately. So that is always going to be about you. I don't want to use always. So the invitation for you is to be as calm as possible so you can communicate appropriately. Because if you are calm and calm without sounding condescending, because that also can do it, because I know for me, when I've had to have hard conversations with my children and I've gotten really angry, I could raise my voice. And so I would start to whisper, and that would just annoy them. That would annoy the crap out of them. And that would then only escalate things. So it's about finding, again, the balance for you and your tone. And again, at the end of the show, I'm going to be leading us in a guided meditation to open up the throat chakra so you can speak calmly. So using I statements is such a great way to start to take responsibility for your thoughts and feelings. And then it also allows the other person to be open to hearing you, and then allowing them to share what they need to share. Being vulnerable relieves the other person from being on the defensive. Vulnerability is the new sexy. I know I've said this before. And when you are open and you take responsibility for yourself, for your thoughts, for your feelings, and where you are and where you're coming from, it makes it very difficult for the other person not to embrace you. How can they not? You're not putting them on the defensive. You're taking responsibility for yourself. Hurt people hurt people. So let's avoid that. Ultimately, you don't take their thoughts and feelings as an assault on you, as you don't use your thoughts and feelings as an assault on them. Let's eliminate most of the hurt that does take place within our communications, because we say things at the top of our wave that we don't always mean in the moment. I mean, how many times have you had a conversation where you wish that you could take back the words that that you said? This is where regret comes from. Regret comes from the choices and the actions that we've made, both verbally and also in action, literally. Don't assume that you know what they are going to say and how they are going to react just because you've been living together for a period of time. I know I mentioned this before, although people grow and change, and what you want and need changes also. So what you're expecting from them may change, and therefore then you need to communicate that. And then they also need to be open to communicating to you that what they need now is different and what they want. So things can always be renegotiated from time to time. Here's a big one. How can I communicate my needs without my emotions taking over? The anger, crying, resentment. For those of you who've never wanted to have the conversation because you were always afraid that you would end up crying, or you would end up getting so angry yourself and so frustrated with yourself that you weren't communicating or able to communicate, you're already putting in that stopgap. It's okay. It's okay to be emotional. It's okay to say, I'm having a hard time with this. Please give me a moment. If the other person is open to hearing what you have to say, they will be open to you having a reaction, as long as you take responsibility for your reaction and not put it on them. Let them, again, being vulnerable. This is all a part of being vulnerable. Being angry or being emotional doesn't take your power away. It actually grounds your power. You being solid and you having any type of emotion is exactly what is needed for having the hard conversation. It's not so much what you're actually saying. It's about where you're coming from. It's about the opening and the allowing for you to speak what you need to speak, and then the other to speak what they need to speak. And I get that can be really, really hard sometimes, because we may not want to hear what the other person has to say if they're laying down their truth. Both if we're the ones who initiated the conversation, and then if they're the ones who are in response to what we need to say. So it's truly about being as calm as you possibly can, allowing yourself to have the emotions, and taking that time out, taking that breath, saying, I'm having a reaction right now. I just need a moment. Allowing your eyes to close, and then going back to your mantra or your little prayer that you say for yourself. For me, I take a breath, and I have a bunch of different things. Just depends on where I am. And what just popped into my head right now was, you got this. You can do this. It's words of affirmation. And then there's specific ones that I'll get into at the end in terms of what you can say to open up your throat chakra. It's about just being open. Wow, actually, I am so completely open right now. So please put in the chat some thoughts and some feelings that you are having, because I would love to hear what it is that you can do for yourself in terms of having the hard conversations. So what do you do when one person in the relationship is more comfortable with having the hard conversations? How do you balance out the perceived imbalance? Again, taking the breath, allowing, just being in the moment, being present. Just being present is really, truly how you can feel heard and be heard. So being present means not thinking about what you're going to say next. It's about listening to what the other person is saying. Because as soon as you're thinking about what you're going to be saying next, you are no longer in the presence. So multiple thoughts are going through my head in terms of being present. I am so present right now that just allow yourself, your thoughts, your feelings, and breathe. Just continue to breathe. So when we come back, I'm going to lead us in a guided meditation in terms of open up your throat chakra, and leave you with some affirmations that may be helpful for you in making it easier for you to have the hard conversations that you need to have with others. See you back in a minute.
At different times on our life journey, we can feel stuck and struggle with seeing our way through. What if the answer to the struggle is just to go deeper than the surface? By tuning in to Feel to Heal with Sharyn Nichols show, with licensed marriage and family therapist and life guide Sharyn Nichols, you'll receive insight and guidance on exploring your feelings in order to heal yourself. Are you ready to create a more satisfying, peaceful, and successful life? Listen for the Feel to Heal with Sharyn Nichols show every Monday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 5 p.m. Central, 4 p.m. Mountain, and 3 p.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. This is Feel to Heal with Sharyn Nichols show with licensed marriage and family therapist and life guide Sharyn Nichols. To participate in the program, join our live studio audience in our chat room at InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. You can also ask questions or comments by email by sending to Sharyn Nichols at feeltoheal.com. Now, back to the program.
Welcome back. And for those of you just tuning in, I'm Sharyn Nichols, and this is Feel to Heal on the Inspired Choices Network. And we are discussing how to have the hard conversations. And the ultimate goal of having the hard conversation is to feel heard and understood and feel loved. And so before we went to break, I was discussing safe words that one can use in terms of using it for a timeout. And someone just reminded me of one of their safe words, or timeout words. Let's call it a timeout word, not a safe word, because safe word makes me think about having sex. And so this is not about having sex, but maybe you need to have a hard conversation about having sex. So we can come back around to that at another time. However, in a relationship, a really great word could just be lunch bucket. Why not? Sounds great. It's such a great non sequitur that could potentially take you out of the heated emotional feelings that you are having in the moment. So to bring you back to the presence, bring you back to present. And it's always about being present. So we're going to move into our meditation for today. And this is a throat chakra meditation. So I'm going to start with a breath, and I'm allowing you to please find a safe place for you to sit. If you obviously are driving, please do not allow your eyes to close and just listen, because you will still get the benefits of the words, and you can also always do the breath. And if you are able, find a comfortable place to sit in and allow your eyes to close. This isn't hard. You don't need to strain. It's okay that you're having multiple thoughts. Welcome them in. It is all right. Be gentle with yourself and non-judgmental. And just bring yourself back to your breath. So now let's all receive a breath. Let go of all the expectations that you have. Let yourself settle in. Maybe if you need to wiggle in your seat to get comfortable, again, allow your thoughts. They're just thoughts. You can just watch them float by. Receive a breath. Continue to breathe. If you find yourself going off with your thoughts, just bring yourself back. Allowing your eyes to close if they haven't already. Notice the rise and the fall and the natural rhythms of your breath. Breathing in deeply first into your diaphragm and then into your chest. Inhale as much as you can. Slowly begin to release the air, starting with your chest and then in your belly. And I like to do it 3 times. And imagine bringing your attention to the root of your being, the base of your spine, the opening of the Kundalini energy that starts at the bottom and winds its way up as a coil, going from the root all the way to the crown. So imagine a tiny ball of red energy is spinning there. Now bring your attention to your sex organs, to your sacral chakra, to where the creativity is. So your root is going to ground you. Your creativity, your sacral, is just below your navel. And imagine an orange spinning ball there. It's the energy, the color orange. Moving up, a tiny ball of yellow energy in the solar plexus, which is your power. Think your core. We're always working on building our core muscles because that is where our strength is. That our core muscles are what hold us up, literally, in our body. So allow the yellow energy to spin around your belly button and then moving up to the 4th chakra, which is your chest, which is represented by the color of green. Again, there's a tiny ball spinning to the throat, blue ball, 3rd eye, indigo, crown. At the base of the throat, allowing this blue light now to just spin and spin and spin and focus on this blue light and allow it to coat your throat with a beautiful, blissful, illuminating your voice box, your thyroid, and all around your neck, awakening your ability to listen. This light will heal all that is going on. Now we want to start chanting in your normal breath. You want to breathe in, breathe out, and inhale. On the exhale, inhale. And continue this, allowing yourself to return to normal breathing. Some affirmations. I apologize if this is a bit rushed. Affirmations. You speak your truth. You have a voice. You are understood. You're a good listener. You want to spend a couple of minutes in silence for yourself to keep yourself energized. When you are ready, after you spend a couple of moments breathing and allowing yourself to open up your throat chakra, allow your eyes to open. So bringing your awareness back. So next week's show is going to be about speaking with verbal intent. So do you think before you speak, because the most powerful words are the ones we use when we talk to ourselves and each other. Thank you so much for being here this week and listening. And in closing, in gratitude for you all, peace, love, and satisfaction. And you might as well be
Thank you for choosing to listen to the Feel to Heal with Sharyn Nichols show.
Because
Sharyn
everyone else
Nichols
is
will return
taken.
next Monday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 5 p.m. Central, 4 p.m. Mountain, and 3 p.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. We hope you'll join us. Until then, give up the struggle, feel all you need to feel, and make this week your best one yet.